Hey guys, welcome back to Delta State Skies. Today I have myself, Carlin. Joining me is Jeffrey, and our guest. Welcome back, Mr. Shaun Kelly.
Glad to be back. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, glad to have you. I believe last time we ended off on you being a NIFA judge and kind of talking into that.
Yes.
Going from there, I believe you're the advisor for our precision flight team on campus.
Yes, the Flying Okra.
How did you get suckered into that?
I didn't know how to say no. No, it's I was asked by our previous chair, Mr. Joe Tsai, to take on that very important role, to take over from Mr. Brandon Bioni, who's done an excellent job at getting the flight team through the COVID years, and his participation, especially as the region rep for NIFA, and stepping in, have pretty big shoes to fill, and I'm honored to work with exceptional students who want to win, right? Because that's the goal of a flight competition. You got to win. And bringing my experience as a judge and having worked for NIFA, the National Intercollegiate Flying Association's head office, under the late Gary Hemphill, gave me a lot of insight into NIFA, especially from the students and the school's perspective, that hopefully will turn into a winning team.
Yeah, I think we really do have the potential this year. I know with Mr. Jeffrey here on our identification team for aircraft, he's killing it right now. He's only taken the test twice, and he got, what score was it?
105 out of 150.
105 out of 150.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody has the potential, right? It takes time, it takes commitment, not just in the class, in our meetings, but also every time you go flying for the pilots, to practice landing, right? NIFA competition is just piloting skills, right? Navigation, short field landing, power off landing, computer accuracies, the simulated comprehensive aircraft navigation. All those are basic piloting skills that every private pilot knows at a minimal. And the competition is not to say you're the best pilot, but in a competition setting, who is the best pilot? So it's just a different environment. And they have two unique ones that are, again, carryover from the glory days of NIFA back in the day when aviation was filled with barnstormers and wing walkers, right? So you have the message drop in aircraft recognition. Obviously, Mr. Jeffrey is the guy, the person for our aircraft recognition. I mean, he can look at a nut on an aircraft and say, well, that's a Boeing 777-200ER with winglet variants or some random comment off of it, because that has been his passion. And that's a lot of our passions. A lot of us know aircraft. He just happens to know a lot more than most people do.
Yeah. I know I've been studying under him recently. Funny enough, the senior studying under the freshman for aircraft identification, because I'm really hoping to be part of that team at the regional competition coming up in October.
Well, and it'll be a good one, right? We'll be going to Longview, Texas, and competing some of our institutional peers from Laterno and Oklahoma, and other Texas schools, and of course Louisiana Tech. And it's a good opportunity. It's a competition, but at the end of the day, it's also about building relationships, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget, right? You may be a pilot in an aircraft, but you still have to work with a crew, and you will see these same individuals in your career. It's amazing. I ran into a former ROTC cadet that I used to do the program with back when I was a crosstown student at my community college going to Embry-Riddle for it, and we ran into each other at Columbus Air Force Base about 10 years ago.
Really?
When I was there with Civil Air Patrol. And it just happened in conversation, and he mentioned about his time at Embry-Riddle, and I said, what year were you there? He said 07 to, I forget what the years were, and I said, well, I was there in reference to my years. And he said, I remember you. You're that crosstown kid. I said, yeah. I was that crosstown kid. But again, right, you just never know when you'll meet people again. And these are just great opportunities to fly, to enjoy aviation, and for us to win. The goal is to win.
How are you thinking we size up this year?
I think we have room to improve, right? I don't ever want to say we're perfect, because no one ever is, right? But I know what we do have is passion. Jeffrey's a prime example. he'll talk about an aircraft every day, and every chance he gets to meet and talk with somebody about an aircraft, and that's passion. That's not anything else but passion,
Yeah.
right? So our team, the general team, not necessarily the competition team at this point, but just everyone that's in the team is passionate about aviation, and it's about harnessing that skill set. So I'm very pleased, and I know we'll do well.
Good. You think we're going to go to nationals?
That is the goal,
We'll
right?
see 'em.
Obviously, different goals and different metrics in how we perform. The goal would be for us to get the nationals, right? This university's flight team was always irregular at most national SafeCon, especially in, I say, the glory days in the 80s and 90s, right? So there's no reason why we can't go. We do have stiff competition. We're going up against some other big institutions, but these institutions aren't big in necessarily flight programs. They're comparable, maybe a couple hundred more than we have, but their flight programs are similar, right? Their schools may be big, but the flight teams for them are about the same size.
Okay. Nice. Just going off that trail, you're the faculty advisor for flight team. You're also the founding faculty member for AAAE.
Yes.
I believe we hit on that a little bit. How is that going for, is it the Okra chapter?
Yes, we are the Okra chapter. Obviously, it's recognized as just a student chapter, but obviously embrace the Okra, right? We are Delta State, the Fighting Okra, the Flying Okra, right? So we are the Okra chapter of AAAE.
Yes. Remind me again what AAAE stands for.
American Association of Airport Executives.
Okay. And you're an officer. What officer position do you hold?
This may not be the official name, but I'm the events coordinator, and for let's say pig picking is coming up, or we have the career fair coming up this Friday, actually, September 25th, 26th.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have my calendar.
22nd.
22nd.
It's
Okay.
the Friday.
Yeah, it's coming up this upcoming Friday, and we'll be represented there, along with a couple of the other chapters of other organizations that are here at Delta State when it comes to the aviation department.
Yes, it's important. We just were officially recognized by the AAA National Office, and then, of course, by our own Delta State University over the summer. We had our initial endorsement from the former Dean Billy Moore, and support from the former Chair Josiah, and to be where we're at, right? We're still in the growing phase. We still have a lot of room to grow, but that's part of the fun, right? All the work's being done now to get us to where we want to be, right? And it'll take some time, but we're looking at planning trips. We're working on training certification. They put in a lot of effort, right? Meeting weekly, the officers, working, trying to plan, and building relationships. And this Friday at the career fair will be a huge step in visibility for our chapter. We will have a table, and we'll be next to the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority, my former employer, and the Mississippi Airport Association, of which I used to belong to back in the day. So it'll be a good chance for us to, really introduce ourselves to industry professionals, of whom they will be entering the workforce as.
I'd definitely say that we're in that early pioneering stage of this organization.
Yes, having founded many things before, it's a once in a lifetime. You will only ever found a student chapter AAA, right, one time. I mean, if you're lucky too, if you go for your doctorate or master's program, right, maybe you can in another school. But it's very important for the students to run it. I just sit back. The advising job's easy. I provide insight when asked, but it's their chapter.
Yes, sir. I got you. Yeah, you've been a great help to both of us and the people behind the camera for the podcast with organizing everything and getting help getting this started too. But you mentioned Civil Air Patrol earlier,
Yes.
CAP. How'd you get into that? What is Civil Air Patrol, first off?
Civil Air Patrol is the official auxiliary of the United States Air Force, founded December 1st, 1941, 6 days before Pearl Harbor, right? Obviously, you can make a lot of conjecture from that, like we knew it was coming, but it was initially set up as basically getting civilians engaged right? There's a whole slew to the history of CAP fill up many podcasts just to talk about, and the early pioneers. And the unique thing with CAP of old as compared to CAP of now is we're now, a benevolent organization. Before, Hap Arnold, General Hap Arnold of the Army Air Corps, wanted us to be armed.
Oh, really?
Right? We have
That's
2
interesting.
confirmed sinking of U-boats during World War II.
It's so cool.
We lost men and women, right?
Yeah.
So the advantage of Civil Air Patrol was then and still today is it's open to anybody.
Okay.
You just got to be as young as 12, and you could be as old as however old it is. Right? Yeah, I know I'm getting up there, but I've been very fortunate to work with some exceptional people and youth in Civil Air Patrol over my 25 years, and it's that passion in that organization that keeps Civil Air Patrol around. The 3 missions, aerospace education, cadet programs, and emergency services, are our guiding foundation. What we do, it describes something we do will fit in one of those categories. And obviously aerospace education is very important to me. It's in part what gave me the bug to want to teach.
Okay.
And the passion, because that's what I used to do, promote aerospace education, which is aviation and space. And so it afforded an opportunity for me to learn how to instruct and talk in front of people. I started in our cadet programs, to your original question.
I was also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was also part of a cadet program based out of Fort Smith in high school, and it's definitely something that's useful to have for you to know about and for you to have possibly on your resume. Is I was part of the Civil Air Patrol. I may have not have gotten that far. High school, it gets in the way.
Well, and going far doesn't mean, right, okay, well, I got this and I got that, but what did you get out of it, right? I'm an anomaly in a lot of ways, and one of them is with CAP. It's usually the kid that brings the parent in. For me, it was the opposite. My mother brought me into the organization. She had started, and she learned about a cadet program. It was something for us. Her being a single parent was able to do and share together. We would do our own things, but at the end of the day, then we'd leave together. So it was a great experience growing up, getting to do what I would do, and she would do what she do, and it was a fun part of the journey, right? To your point, CAP usually says, we benefit from people's lives. Right, basically, people do stuff professionally or at career, church, and so forth, and CAP is able to tap into that talent. Again, I would say I'm the anomaly. For me, I am where I am because of the skill sets, because of the opportunities CAP has given me, leadership development, educational development, just a lot of opportunities that would not have happened probably otherwise, and that have helped me professionally and now and academically, right, as an instructor, and even now again as a student. Those core disciplines that come from being a former cadet to now a senior member in the organization.
One thing I've noticed is every time I come to your office, the first thing you see are the dozens of coins. A lot of them, I believe, are from CAP.
Yes.
You have like 5 or 6 racks, full racks of those?
Well, and each of them means something. Obviously, the more general ones, right, that are less of importance are the ones that are more easily accessible. Obviously, the ones that mean the most are kind of like the reserve collection, right? They were in the back, so to speak. And they mean something, right? Some of them were given to me professionally from working. A lot of them were from CAP, my personal command coin when I was a squadron commander. So each has a story, and even the general ones, right? The ones that are up front were from places I participated in a function at. So each has a memory.
Sorry.
Are you still part of CAP right now, or?
Yes, I am. I did transfer into the Mississippi wing, and obviously been trying to work over the summer in bouncing now. But we are trying to get CAP Squadron back here in Cleveland, Mississippi to represent the Delta.
I think that's what Jeffrey was.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. I know you've talked to me about possibly becoming like a safety officer for that.
Possibly. Definitely.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod. And I would absolutely be willing to pick up back where I was when I was in Arkansas. I mean, it's a great program. Even if may not go into the Air Force, it's still it still instills a form of respect and an ability to actually work underneath people of power in both the civilian and military branches.
It's like kind of you get out of it what he was saying in class earlier today. What was the word? It was you become you're more of a person, or not. That's a bad way of putting it.
Well, I was like a while ago.
From transportation class, we were talking about pilots and the hiring process.
Well, yes, making yourself well-rounded, right? You know,
You're more of a well-rounded,
Yeah.
more mannered, respectable person.
and when you look at, right, like within Civil Air Patrol, a lot of the perception is because of that Air Force uniform. Oh, well, the military. Civil Air Patrol does not actively recruit people from the military. We recruit, especially the cadets, you know, to be of service to their community, state, and nation, right, as part of their cadet oath. What does that mean? Giving them a chance to explore aviation and airspace careers. And a lot of them happen to be in the military, but a lot of them don't, right? So it's about exposing our youth, right? And this is meant no disrespect to other youth organizations, but my personal opinion is that is the premier youth organization because of that unique opportunity, right? Especially in the world we're entering with cyber and AI. Civil Air Patrol has been addressing a lot of these issues in a way of trying to educate our youth and expose them. You know, and when we look at our adult leadership, right, opportunities to be able to give back. A former cadet of mine from back during my time as a commander in Vicksburg, we call it crossing over to the dark side, right, going from a cadet to a senior member. And she has successfully led 2 cadet programs, one where she was working on her bachelor's, and now that she's working professionally, right, she's able to hone that skill set and give back. And that's what it boils down to for me and for a lot of CAP members, if not all of them, especially the adult leaders, is being able to give back to our youth, to our communities, to our educators. We're able to touch almost everybody through Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah.
Speaking of Vicksburg, if you look on the table here, there's this wooden representation of a patch. Speaking of that specific city, why don't you explain to us what's on this?
So this is a obviously wooden replica of the squadron patch that I designed for my squadron that I founded back in 2013. So everything on there means something, right? So the name of the squadron as of December 13th, it was officially the Vicksburg Composite Squadron. We were a CR, which is Southeast Region, MS, Mississippi 109. So that's with the Vicksburg 109 denotes on there. Vicksburg is known as the red carpet city of the South. That's why you have those red borders, as denoting like a red carpet. So in the centerpiece, you have the outline of our great state of Mississippi with a gray background, which represents 2 things. In our cadet program, they're usually associated with blue. Their name badges are blue, and the seniors are gray. So you have the 2 colors denoting the 2 main members. Also recognizing and honoring Vicksburg's role in the Civil War, right, as a huge battle that led it, right, blue and the gray. So again, recognizing our history down there. You have a silhouette of an aircraft that is the silhouette of a P-51D Mustang. Very specifically, it's a D. And that's part from where we initially started. And one of our greatest supporters was at the Vicksburg Tallulah Regional Airport with Southern Heritage Air Foundation.
Okay. I've heard of them.
Right, and they have a very famous P-51D called Charlotte's Chariot 2. And instead of the numbers on the back, like a lot of aircraft do, they had the pi symbol. So that's why there's the pi symbol on there. And again, there's a whole story to that one that would be a great to have the people to discuss with, right? And it was a great story. Then in the bottom right is a fire symbol with the number 5. And they're specifically located. So if you use the plane as the river, that's where the 2 airports are. The pi symbol would be where Vicksburg Tallulah is, and the fire station number 5 is at Vicksburg Municipal, and that's where we moved our headquarters to and kept an annex location at Southern Heritage. Well, the fire station 5 was old station 5 that we had leased from the city of Vicksburg, and was instrumental in us truly growing in Vicksburg as a representation of the community. And then, of course, the cap round dial over there is located at where, if you look at the state of Mississippi, where Vicksburg is, and also with it being offset to encompass Vicksburg Tulsa Airport. And then, of course, the 2 dates. We were founded on the 5th of February in 2013 as the Vicksburg Flight, and by December of that year, we were officially recognized as a composite squadron.
Okay.
And this patch was made by a dear friend and a member of the squadron, Cindy Sayer, and she made this for me and gave that to me when I stepped down from command as part of my change of command ceremony.
Okay.
You said, I'm gonna put a little bit of nerdiness in here. The P-51D, for those who are listening that don't know a little bit about World War II history, the D was used most specifically mid to late war over Europe and in the Pacific, but it's most well known for flying over Europe, escorting B-17 squadrons into the heartland of Nazi Germany, and it was instrumental in defeating the Luftwaffe.
A walking history
I am
encyclopedia.
a walking
And this
history.
is why he's our go-to for aircraft recognition, right?
The main reason why the P-51D was so instrumental was its range. It had the longest range of any Army Air Force aircraft besides the bombers that they were escorting. So they could escort their bomber squadrons all the way into the heartland where they were dropping bombs, and all the way back to the airfields in mid-war were in England, and then late war were in France. And
Wow.
the central countries above France, like Belgium and the Netherlands.
So we were doing some. Thank you for that, by the way.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. We were doing some research last night on your Civil Air Patrol career.
Yes.
We found you got what is the Gil Rob Wilson?
The Gil Rob Wilson Award is our highest professional development award. Not many senior members earn it because it takes work, it takes time and effort to attain a higher award. So aside from time and a place, holding certain ranks, right, you have to serve on staff. You have to volunteer for wing level, which is state or a region or national level position. You need to you have to work for it. And one of the requirements when I earned it was going to National Staff College. It was the premier, and in my opinion still is, even though we don't actively use it anymore, institution that would bring members from across the nation for a week, full immersion at Maxwell Air Force Base. And I met great people who were exceptional leaders, and some I still call friends that I really got to know in that regard. And we were able to learn. My year was our 70th anniversary year.
Okay.
So it's one of the benefits of CAP is just opening up a world of potential.
And then you have the Air Force Organizational Excellence Award. How did you get that?
After almost 70 plus years, right? Initially being older than the Air Force, still to this day, we're older than the Air Force, recognized, as part of the Air Force once the Air Force became its own military branch. For years of service, the organization, and by virtue of the members, were recognized. That is an actual Air Force ribbon. It is the highest ribbon all CAP members that were members at the time are allowed to wear. So it'll sit above any Civil Air Patrol ribbons and decorations. So it means a lot, not just for me, but for our organization that have spent almost just over 25 years with. So it was a appreciated recognition from the United States Air Force and our partner as part of the total force.
Nice. You also have 2 Exceptional Service Awards. I'm assuming, as the title says, you gave in some exceptional service and received those.
Yes. The first one was for while I was in the Vicksburg Composite Squadron. I was also the Mississippi Wing Director of Aerospace Education and the Southeast Director of Internal Aerospace Education. And it was the 3rd year we put on a Aerospace Education Academy. And again, grassroots. idea based off of some things I've done, some things my peers were doing, but making it homegrown Mississippian style, right? And that year was the year that it was a joint Southeast region and a Mississippi Wing initiative, and it was robust. We had representation from 7 wings, 2 regions. We had teachers involved. We had cadets and youth. Our classes were mixed. It's one of the things that I'm looking forward to restarting and bringing back in, especially here in the Mississippi Delta. So again, it was all about promoting aerospace education for our organization and for our communities. And then the second one was for my service at the National Staff College staff. That was a fun experience. I usually, for the longest time, was always the youngest senior member. Because again, I'm an anomaly, and a lot of our cadets who want to stay in CAP have careers. They kind of take priority. But I've always been able to manage my career, a successful career, and my time in Civil Air Patrol, and be able to bridge the two together.
That youngest senior member must have been a long time ago.
Well, it's still, ironically, the average age at my National Staff College class was 55. And
you're younger than that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm way younger than that. But again, so it's an organization for a lot of different people, all walks of life. Somebody says, well, I'm not a pilot. Don't worry, I'm not a pilot. Come join anyways, right? Yeah. He wants to do safety. What a better place for him to really practice safety under some exceptional people.
Yeah.
The current Mississippi Wing Director of Safety is a near and dear friend. We go way back to our glory days. He was the commander of the Jackson Squadron while I was the commander of Vicksburg. So it's those friends and relationship that are cherished.
So besides the Civil Air Patrol, you've also been a part of a couple of volunteer organizations. Talking about first one that comes up is the FAASTeam representative. What is a FAAST per se?
FAASTeam, the FAA safety team. So basically, for as long as I can remember, the FAA has been putting on safety seminars, and they're to me, they're very important. A lot of it I attribute is to the FAA, the safety side of the organization wanting to promote safety. How do you promote safety? You educate, you train, you have discussions, right? So it's open to anybody who's interested in aviation. Yeah. The FAA does not charge for these events, and it's volunteers. While they pay their staff members right to come out and help sponsor, promote, or discuss, it's on local people, and that's where the FAASTeam representatives come into play. They're able to secure the location, all right, or even present themselves, right? Then that's one thing that I've recently taken over is working on trying to plan a FAASTeam seminar at Delta State for this semester. Ideally, I'd like to do 2, but I'm looking again to bringing those back here and having fun because it's all about promoting.
Well, I know we had one. We had one seminar earlier last semester in the spring. Did you help organize that, or?
More or less, just kind of sit there and was getting my feet wet again.
Okay.
Because obviously that was Brett Ollis who primarily spearheaded those, but I helped him. He needed me to do something. I, taking care of it, putting up signs. So I learned, how to utilize our own facilities. Right. The last time I really actively sponsored one was when I was a commander, and then at my first airport. So we were able to utilize tools and resources to make it happen.
So I understand what FAST is, and we hear a lot about it here with FAST and Wings program and everything. How did you go about getting to become a representative for the FAST team? They
pre-COVID, they would do annual training. Right?
Oh, okay.
So again, it's not necessarily you have to be a subject matter expert. You just have to learn the nuances of aviation. Right? What is the topics? Right? You have to know your area. That's the advantage of Civil Air Patrol too, right? We know our area and what we have to work with. So good FAASTeam meetings outside of Delta State in the Delta would be related to aerial applicator programs, right?
Yep.
So in the ag pilot field. So, but at Delta State, tailoring safety seminars that would be more towards safety, right? Being mindful of runway incursions, right? Stuff that you would be working around.
Stuff in the one in the spring. that seminar. They mainly talked about takeoff and landing accidents because we have so many takeoffs and landings a day, especially in such a training environment. That's one of our major things.
It's also one of the most. It is the most dangerous time during a flight. Is the takeoff and landing stages of it, just because there are so many more possibilities and variables at hand that can come up compared to cruise and climb and descend, because you're getting towards the ground and you make one wrong move and you smack into the earth.
Well, it's that, but you're also just so task saturated, as Ms. Parker puts it in her classes. A lot of work overload. But
Well, let me add on with that one, right? Because I've heard that presentation for several years now. Not necessarily that exact one, because the data changes, and it's important, right? For pilots, student pilots, professional pilots, weekend warrior pilots, those that, right, and you do it for fun, to pay attention, because the goal of safety seminars is to make the industry safer. We're already one of the safest industries, if not the safest, right? I joke the most dangerous part of aviation is just to get to the airport, right? Driving.
Yep.
So these are designed to, right, kind of make you aware of it. Sometimes you need those sobering reminders, and those pre-built presentations from the FAA are data driven, right? So that's what will dictate the common topics.
The quote I don't really like is, "It's all done in blood."
And unfortunately, it's a true statement, right? Palm 90, the mid-air collision over the Grand Canyon,
There was
AirTran over the Everglades. A lot of the rules and the procedures we have now, right? Security world post 9/11. So a lot of that stuff you can attribute to unfortunate circumstances that happened, and interactions with people, machines, and time and place that led to unfortunate loss of life. But it's because of those, right, as a commitment from the industry, that we want to be safer. We don't want to repeat 9/11 or the Grand Canyon mid-air collision or AirTran or Palm 90, right? We consciously say we do not want this to happen again, right? And that's a unique aspect of our industry, is because we want it to be safe.
Yes, sir.
From someone that wants to do one of those jobs as a safety representative for a company or an airline, you get to know these crashes kind of personally. It's like, I'm going to correct you, but like that ValueJet crash, which they merged with AirTran.
Which merged with Southwest.
It was merged with Southwest, yep, correct. And that crash was, the scary thing about it is the pilots didn't know what was going on, because they weren't told what they were carrying, and that eventually that's what killed them. There was an oxygen fire in the hold, and they didn't even know what was going on.
And see, in a sad part, right, and in the key part, when you, as a pilot, for you, and then obviously as a future safety person, right, it's important for you to really understand what all went on, right? When you look at a ValueJet, I remember when that happened, right, because I was around.
What?
Right, as an older person here, and it's important to understand a lot of the aspects that went into it. I remember the initial reports was, okay, we don't know what happened, right? And some commentators got on there.
That's the one thing you don't want to hear as like a family member or the commentator, like, we don't know what happened. What do you mean?
Well, but the sad part of those initial days, right, they didn't know, so it was pilot error, right? And I hate to say, but even some of the comments that were pushed out on some news channels, well, it was a female pilot, right? Then we started that conversation, but it was not the pilot. She was an exceptional pilot. The co-pilot, he was an exceptional pilot. The crew did their job. They just were not provided information.
They should have known.
Right? And it's because of that we have safety rules, that those two in the front of that aircraft, the captain and co-captain, be it a he, she, or they know what is in their aircraft. And that's, again, unfortunate loss, but we are so much more safer.
We learned from it.
Right.
Before we get too far away from like Civil Air Patrol and military-wise stuff, you were the main chaperone over the summer for the JROTC program.
Yep.
How did that go?
It was interesting, I do not regret ever doing that, and I hopefully will be asked to do it again, right? Because it's a chance again to promote aviation, to foster the youth's love and passion in aviation, right? An opportunity that is scholarshiped out to the United States Air Force that, bless, if we all could have had that opportunity, right? You know, an 8-week crash course, immersive, your job is to eat, sleep, and get your private pilot license.
My
right?
bank account would be a lot happier.
Yeah.
Right, but it's these kind of opportunities, in part because of the pilot shortage that we're all dealing with, right, in the industry, you know, but also exposing pilot to minorities and females. So again, it's trying to expose, you know, an unfortunate truth in our industry, but also while trying to address a challenge, right? Because every one of them was top in their respective programs, right?
Yes.
So we're not talking, you know,
Joe Schmo off the street.
right? We're talking the top of their our junior RTC programs. We had 2 cadets from the RTC and a Air Force Academy cadet, right? Our future leaders. You know, you've probably heard me. You may have not heard me yet in my classes, right? My job has always been to train my successor, right?
Yeah.
Because at some point I'm going to retire. Don't know when that is, right? Yeah, people like him, people like you, you know, you may be amazed if you dive into the world of management, how much more fun that is.
Well, I've already been discussing with you about getting a master's degree.
Yes, but again, right, it's about having fun and sharing, right?
Yeah. No,
I'm sorry, I don't mean
Oh,
to
you're
cut you
good.
off. Some of the people listening may not know what is the JROTC and thus also the ROTC program.
The Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps and then the Reserve Officer Training Corps. So those are the military. ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps, is associated with college level, and basically students who sign on will commission as a second lieutenant in the Air Force or in one of the other branches, or an ensign in the Navy, and right. And then you have the Junior RTC, which is a high school program, comparable to the Civil Air Patrol's cadet program,
Okay.
except it's counted as like a high school class. So again, it's about imparting life skills.
Yes, sir. And for what we're talking about, to those of you who may not have picked up, over the summer, for about 8 to 10 weeks, we bring in 15 to 25 ROTC cadets or students, and we get them their private pilot license, or get them as close as possible with what we can with at the time and weather, of course. And Mr. Kelly here volunteered his time. He stayed with them over the summer, moved out of his house, brought his animals with him.
Tried not to rip his hair out.
Yeah, I think I saw a few gray hairs in the middle of the summer.
But
And he was there with them every day, every second of every day for these 10 weeks, unless he was out of town doing other events for Delta State University.
well, and that's just it, right? This was our 3rd year, right? Obviously, this is my 1st year, but again, it's something that's going on at other schools around the same time. So it's a good way of, you know, promoting aviation, right? Some people say, well, how does Delta State benefit from it? By promoting aviation. You have exposed people to Delta State in Cleveland, Mississippi,
Yep.
to our program, right?
Well, we even got 2 or 3 students out of this ROTC
Yes,
bunch.
right. Yeah, several of our students, right? And again, that was the first time of the program, right? But then that's not necessarily our goal. Some people says, well, what do we get students? You don't know, right?
It's a bonus.
Yeah, it's kind of a roll of the dice. If you get one, if you like, oh look, I got a 6. I got 2 students out of this. Sweet.
Right. You know, and while my job was in the chaperoning department, right, the work was out at the flight ops, right? Our team of instructors and the leadership out there were instrumental. They worked hard to ensure all those cadets that made it through from start to finish got to an achievable goal. The goal was private pilot, right? Not everybody, unfortunately, made it, but over 80%
Yeah.
made it, and that was the goal.
For getting it in 8 weeks with all the weather challenges and constantly rotating planes in and out of maintenance like
Right.
we have to, that's really impressive to even get that close. We were fortunate enough to keep all our planes this year.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, you know, there was a situation previous year, but if you look at the challenges that we faced this year, weather was a factor, right?
Oh, there was a few solid weeks. I would work out
that
at
hailstorm.
that. Yeah, that was.
Poor car.
It still looks rough.
Yes, but again, right? I mean, that's the business, right?
Yeah.
We are at the mercy of the weather for flying, for planning operations, for safety. That you know what I mean. So it's a very dynamic environment.
Yeah, I remember I was working at the airport over the summer as line service, and seeing the amount of work that all the full-time staff, not just you, not just the colonel, not just a single person, the teamwork and the effort that the entire department put into that was very impressive. And I'm definitely happy to see that the university I'm attending and the family, quote unquote, I'm part of, is working that well together to get everyone through.
Well, and that's very important to understand. You hit on it, right? Our flight instructors and our leadership out there, General McNeely, Sheila Milliken, right? I mean, good Lord, he's 30 years experience with our department, and really the backbone for many of those years as the head senior secretary, forgetting what her title was, right? And now as our ag program coordinator, right? It took that team, but most importantly to recognize is the leadership, right? The former provost, right? We were between two deans, right?
Both of them are excellent.
Right, their support, the interim president and our current president, right? Their support for our success is what makes it easy for the entire team to be able to do their job.
Yeah, I think I said it before in I think it was the introductions episode. It's just, even though Delta State's so small, it honestly makes it work better, in my opinion.
Because we're a tighter knit family, thus we know better when things happen, and a lot more people actually chip in and say, "Hey, if you need help, we're here for you." And if that cry is given, it's insane how many people actually come in to help.
Well, it's funny. In my intro to aviation class, obviously everybody in our program has to take that class, and 90%, 99%, probably even mostly, are all flight operations. And I use a saying for my management students. I said, "The few, the proud." You know, the old Marine Corps slogan, right? And that's in essence describes our skinny, right? We're the few and the proud, because we take pride in being a statesman, unofficially the Okra, right? So it's important, right? It's an institution. It's a public institution that is in the business of academic, excellence, and providing that foundation in all our great programs here. But we're still close knit. We're a family, and that's has always been beneficial for me in my lifetime, has working at smaller airports, smaller companies, because people care for you, right? There's that bond, right? It's like any family, you have your ups and downs, but you have a good experience and a good time, and that's what makes Delta State, that you just can't buy that at a big institution, right?
You don't feel like you're just by yourself. You have friends and very close-knit colleagues that will help you if you just say the word.
Because I was at that cadet I told you about, that former cadet, and she invited me to her graduation at a big institution in our great state. I'm not going to mention the institution, but this was the afternoon commencement, right? We have a morning and afternoon, which makes it still personable. Theirs was massive.
Yeah.
3 hours later of calling names from just the afternoon session, right?
Wow.
But that's a big institution, right? It's about the volume and the numbers, and it's not diminishing, right? Their programs are excellent, but it's what sets Delta State apart is the charm, the unique aspect that you have with a smaller institution comparable to the big schools, right? That, in my opinion, is well worth every penny we spend here, every bit of knowledge we learn here, and every relationship we take from here into our personal lives and careers.
Yes, sir. And so we were talking about the ROTC program, and it happens over the summer. You disappeared for about a week over the summer. I think you went up to Indianapolis.
Yep, I went up to
something called ABI. What's ABI?
The Aviation Accreditation Board International.
Oh, so it sounds important.
Well, it's like anything in our industry. It's another acronym, ABI, right? ABI. And it's very important for us to acknowledge its contributions to our program success. Institutions are accredited, degree programs are also accredited, right? So we're accredited as a university, but what this does is accredit our flight operations and our aviation management programs. And it doesn't tell us how to do our program, it gives us guides on how to have a industry program because of our industry relationships through ABBE, how to set the bar high, right? I heard it best at the Indianapolis annual meeting from an industry leader from one of our major airlines, and he said, when we see people from an accredited school, we don't have to worry, right? Because they know the expectations.
They know the standard's been met.
Right, because they don't touch on what you need to learn as a pilot. That's the FAA's job, right?
Yeah.
As a manager, they don't touch on that one, right? That's business principles, because business is business. What they set up is, okay, you have to have standards for your goals, right? And goals are based off of universities, institutions. They don't tell us what we need. They tell us you need to have them. They need to be cohesive, right? They need to be forward-thinking and engaging. So our program goals for the respective programs, our student learning outcomes, are built upon these. Our employee and staff goals, our facilities goal, right? What are you doing to improve your facility? Well, one of those
keeping like aircrafts and
stuff.
such.
Good lordies, right? As our programs grow, right? Especially with our brand new Cirruses in the fleet. So it's important to recognize the contributions of our creditor, ABBE, because right, we just applied for our reaffirmation, which is a renewal of our accreditation, that they're not telling us what to do. They're providing guidance and standards that are designed to elevate our program. And by virtue, it benefits the students, right? Because that's what we're doing here, right? I teach, but I'm here to help you to be the best person you can be, your greatest potential. And the accreditor, ABBE, gives us guides and helps us out, and also provides us with building relationships, not just with other institutions. I've been fortunate to make friends because of ABBE at Florida Tech, at Embry-Riddle, at Auburn, right? Some would say our competitors, but to me, they're our colleagues, right? And it provides
it's a friendly competition.
Well, yeah, it's like anything, right? We all want that student, but on the same token, we all want to challenge each other to be the best that we can be. And then also making connections with the industry. And for me, it provides a different connection to industry. Coming from airports, right, a very close family of relationships I've built over the years, to now where I'm working with airline executives and organizations represented like ALPA. I'm meeting people from ALPA. I never thought I would be in that position.
What's ALPA?
The Airline Pilots Association.
Okay,
right?
thank you.
I know, another acronym.
Acronyms.
More acronyms.
So basically, ABBE gives us guidelines, and it's to the point where if they see on your resume you have a diploma from this accredited school, they don't have to question what you learned there because they know the guidelines that school has been following.
Right, because one of the keys to, in my opinion, again, to ABBE's success is our relationship with industry.
Okay.
We talk with industry, we listen to the industry, right? How can we make pilots better or managers better if we're not listening to the industry? And that's one of the requirements, right? Industry relationships. As part of not just goals, but are you engaging, right? Mrs. Rebecca Parker and her career fair is a prime example, right? It's not just an opportunity for you to network and engage and find future employment, but also a chance for us to say, hey, what are you seeing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to understand because it's all about listening, right? Because we only know so much.
Yeah.
So, moving on from that, on our little slideshow here, we have you are the chair of the Commercial Aviation Scholarship Selection Committee. What does that mean? Like, what do you do?
Well, it's kind of a newest thing. Like, I'm trying to develop some guiding principles,
Okay.
right now. But also, was asked to chair. Like, the initial one was our Purple Runway Scholarship, from courtesy of Federal Express, or pardon me, not Federal Express, FedEx now.
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows that name.
No one knows them as
They don't
that
even use that name
anymore.
right, for our students. And it's about ensuring, everybody has their fair chance, right? When we look at things in these scholarships, right, one meeting the criteria, because if somebody says, here's $1,000 to give to a student, well, they have a stipulation, right? One is they got to be in our program, right, because these are geared directly for us. And so it's about ensuring that we get the scholarships to our students who apply, who meet the criteria. So it's just reviewing that kind of process.
Yeah. So I've been told, I think we're going on almost an hour right now. So we need
Told
to
you I can talk a lot.
I know. So what are your future plans?
In the short term, is my doctorate,
Okay.
right? I'm hoping everything, works like, but I should have hopefully my doctorate in 3 years from now.
And you're going to Florida Institute of Technology
Yep.
for that?
So
what is it specifically in?
it's a doctorate in aviation, right?
Just aviation.
Right.
Okay.
It's the letter designation, once I earn that, will be AVD. Capital A, lowercase v, period, D, period, right? Everything's got to be very specific, as opposed to a PhD, right? The difference with the program, the best way it was explained to me, was it was geared towards those that work in the industry, because I can't physically go there to school. I
Yes, sir.
kind of need to make money to live, right?
Yes, sir.
I can't be a college kid again. Definitely wouldn't want to
like
share
a
a dorm.
40-year-old in college.
Not 40 yet, not yet. Not the big 4-0.
Getting close.
We're not going to talk about that.
So, short-term doctorate, where do you see yourself retiring or in 20, 30 years?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know, just rolling with the
I
hits?
learned a long time ago to stop trying to predict and plan where I want to go, because the good Lord will direct me where I need to be, right? I would never have thought I would have been in Jackson, Mississippi after I left Vicksburg, Arizona, Virginia, even here, right? I've always wanted to teach, so this was in the cards, but I never saw this one coming.
Yes,
And I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, I want to kind of start a little segment where, to wrap up all our interviews, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
What is your favorite plane and why?
It's funny. I use that as an interview question, and my challenge is I can't tell you just one. I'm too OCD, too much like Mr. Jeffrey over here. I have one in a category, right? But I would say probably if I had to pick one, I would go with an EC-120 Colibri.
Okay. Why?
Because that's the one my mother flies.
Oh,
We used
really?
to fly the most of, right?
Okay.
And I was trained in it for a little bit, so I got some hours in it. And it's a beautiful aircraft, smart design, and what better way to fly than fly with your mother?
Yes, sir. Well, that's about all we have for you guys this week on Delta State Skies. I'll make sure to post a picture of some of the goods that Mr. Kelly has brought for us today on Instagram and all our social medias. But we'll see you again next week. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys.